Hey guys! So it's been a really long time since my last video. Well, I guess not that long. It's only been a month. But anyways, as you can see from the title, this video is going to be about why I quit my job and maybe why you need to quit too. So let's get started. So this video is first of all for anybody who might feel uncomfortable at their job, anybody who might feel like they're not being fulfilled at their job, anybody who feels taken advantage of at their job, anybody who feels like they are in a toxic workplace, and most importantly, anybody who just doesn't feel valued and feels like that they can do better. So that's what it's about today. So I want to just go over some reasons why I quit, and I just also want to remind you guys that I am not a professional in any means. I'm purely speaking from life experience and wisdom that I've garnished from those who care about me and love me. So I've been very lucky to be working since I was 18 continually. I did have a couple of lapses in between jobs, but every job I left, I had to leave for a very specific reason. So let's get into those. So let me see. The first job I left because, quite frankly, I was really depressed. I was anxious all the time. Sometimes I was so depressed that my coworkers would think that I was sick when I wasn't sick at all. I was just having a really hard time with my mental health. And I think I also just, I didn't feel like I was getting taken advantage of. I just felt like I could do more. And I had been working at the same job for almost 2 years as like a cashier. And I was kind of just like, I think I've gotten my fill here. I became a cashier and then I became a supervisor within 5 months because I really impressed my bosses with my work ethic. And I was very proud of myself and all that I accomplished in that job. But I just, something in me always knows I'm a very like hot and cold person. And once I decided I needed to leave, I couldn't go back. So it's crazy to think about it now. As a young adult and I was 18, yeah, I said that. So I basically just like went up to one of my managers and I was like, hey, so, and he wasn't in my department or anything, and him and I were cool. So I felt comfortable to ask him. I was like, hey, so how would somebody like go about putting in their 2 weeks notice? Do I need to write something? Do I need to say something to somebody? He's like, well, traditionally you want to like just say, as of this day, I am giving you my 2 weeks notice that I will be no longer working at this job. So he literally pointed my way to the piece of paper and pen. I wrote it up. I still remember clear as day on a yellow notepad. And then I gave it to my boss, and word spread like wildfire. I worked in a very, very big corporate retail store. We had everything. We had retail, we had perfume, we had jewelry, we had electronics, we had washers, dryers, tools, all of that. And I kid you not, I felt like all of my good friends slash coworkers knew within like 20 minutes or less. And my direct supervisor came to me with tears in her eyes and she's like, is it true? Are you leaving? And I said, yeah, I'm not happy here. I love you guys, but unfortunately, my love for you guys isn't enough to keep me here. And I just feel like it's time for me to move on. And Faith, if you're watching this, I still love you and I think so well of you. And you are such a great supervisor, leader, and person. And then I didn't even tell my friends, and my friends came up to me like so upset, and I for a second guessed myself, because when your coworkers are like, well, like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for a job? I just had a peace about it. I had actually been like contemplating quitting for probably like 3 months, if I remember correctly. So I like prayed about it. I remember specifically on my like 10-minute, I like went and prayed about it in my car, and like God was like, yep, it's time. It's been almost 2 years. You had a good run with this place and you got everything I wanted you to get out of it, so you can leave. And I did. And then fast forward, I worked at another job, and unfortunately I was let go of because I was a student in college, and one day I showed up and my boss was just like, so we don't want to work with your work schedule anymore, with your school schedule, anymore, so we're letting you go. And it was really abrupt, and I think I was just like in shock, because this boss, and I just want to hit on a couple of topics while I'm talking about each job. This boss that I interacted with was very passive aggressive, like when I did something wrong, she wouldn't come up and be like, hey, Noelle, I want you to do it this way instead of this way, okay? And that could have been fine. I would have not been butthurt. I would have not been sad. I would have just made the adjustment and done it. But instead of her being direct, like a boss should be, she walked around me and kind of gave me dirty looks. And then like when she would say good morning to me, it was very insincere, and I was just like, what's going on? And I was like asking my coworkers, like, you guys, like, what's going on? Am I doing something wrong? Like you guys know, but I don't know. And they're like, no. And I was like, am I being silly? Like, is she not acting weird? Is she treating you guys the same way? And they're like, no, there's definitely a weird vibe. So, and I also got this job like 2 weeks after I quit my first job ever. So I still like new to the whole job game and like different kinds of bosses kind of thing. So it took a lot of guts for me to go up to my boss and be like, hey, so am I doing something wrong? And she got very quiet and like was stunned, like a little kid that like was told they did something wrong. And she was like, yeah, actually, you know what, there is something wrong. I am pretty not happy with the way you're doing this thing, and I need you to do it this way, so maybe you could take more time to practice to do it the correct way. And I said, oh, okay, no problem. But like what really made me mad is I had been doing that thing wrong for 3 days, and I was still very new to the job, so I was getting accustomed to the way they did things. And I was like, so I've been practicing doing something wrong for 3 days, when as soon as you told me I did something wrong, you could have just come up to me, helped me, and then fixed it. And then just to go back to her fixing my mistake, she then took the time to like give me a tutorial on how to properly do this thing that ideally would have been nice if she showed me the first time I would have been wrong. But yeah, that whole job was a learning experience. Her son even told me they had a 90% loss rate for employment. Oh, 90% turnover, that's what I meant. Couldn't think of the word. So they had 90% turnover, and he told me that in confidence, and I see why. Because if you're the boss and you don't know how to be direct with your employees, of course they're going to make you unhappy. Nobody can read anybody else's mind, so you need to tell them, obviously try to tell them in a nice but like firm way. And I just really wish she would have done that, but I'm also very thankful that she gave me a good lesson, that she was not the kind of boss that I wanted to work for. So, yeah. And then we can kind of fast forward. So the other reasons why I left my jobs were because honestly, from there was just a lot of bad management. And I can pretty much sum up the rest of all my jobs for leaving to bad management. What I mean by bad management is one of them would gossip about other employees behind other employees' back. And before I was even hired, and at one job in particular, my boss would talk to me about other employees who she assumed might be stealing or doing this or doing that. And I should have sniffed out that being a red flag, but it just kind of went over my head, probably because I was nervous and naive because I didn't know her very well as a person or as a boss. But that whole job with her was really awful. She was the store manager and she slumped off all of the work onto all of the assistant managers. And she was just very entitled and also a little bit of a narcissist because she would like come down on you for not getting multiple tasks done because there were too many tasks for one person to accomplish, even two people to accomplish, because they should have been done also by her. And I'm probably still a little bit upset about that because I know that she's still taking advantage of the employees that work for her. So some warning signs that led to me quitting that job with her was that she continued to speak illy of other customers, not other customers, illy of other employees who she, mind you, hadn't decided to employ. She would also call me when I was not on the clock, tell me about customer problems or issues at work. I would get a call almost every single day that I had a day off. So I was constantly on edge. It was like I was like being on call for a retail job, which is absolutely ridiculous to think about it now. And then the other warning sign was that there was this really great young associate who worked with us, and she, I think, tried to put in her 2 weeks, and the boss denied it. She was like, well, why do you want to leave? And she basically, more or less, after I had talked to this young associate, coerced her and manipulated her and guilt-tripped her into staying at the job, which is a big warning, flashing no. Leave your job. If your boss is guilt-tripping you in any way, get out of there. No, absolutely not. You do not deserve, nobody deserves to be manipulated in their place of work. Work is work, and it should just be that. And then this part is still mind-boggling to me. After witnessing that, I was a little bit nervous about putting my 2 weeks in because, again, I always contemplate things for a good amount of time, especially when it's a big decision. I at least try to give it like a week or sometimes a month, especially with jobs because it's my employment and my livelihood. So I felt really nervous, but I got up the guts to type up my resignation, my 2 weeks, and I put a letter on my boss's desk. My boss was putting up some kind of new retail thing, and she asked my help for it. And she was on a ladder, and I was below her, and she's like, "Oh, Noelle, what was that letter you put on my desk?" And I like paused, and I was like, because she was on the ladder, and I was below her, basically supporting her, which is a whole mess of problems there. But I was like, "Oh, it's just a note for you." Okay. I'll read it later, is what she said. I was like, okay. And then eventually I like had to go and help another customer and just do some stuff around the store. And then she came to me, she's like, so you're quitting. Why are you quitting? Why didn't you tell me that there was something wrong? And she literally, physically locked me in. There's a back counter. My back was against the back counter, and this is her, and she blocked me into the counter. So she was using physical intimidation. Yeah. And she's like, well, why are you leaving? What's wrong with this place? Why is it? And really, it was because of her. And she kind of kept pestering me, and I just didn't want to answer her. And I said, name, I'm not going to say her name. There are just some integral things wrong here that no matter how good I get, no matter how much effort I put in, no matter how confident I get with our systems and the way we do things, it's not going to change unless things that are deeply rooted here change. And then she got very quiet. And and then she's like, oh, and one more thing, Noelle. Your letter says you're quitting on this day. Well, that doesn't work for us because we need you to work the weekend. And I said, I don't think so. I am not even legally obliged to give you a 2 weeks. I'm giving you a 2 weeks as a courtesy. She's like, okay, we'll see about that. Yeah. So I was completely just feeling so many emotions. I was angry, sad, upset, a little bit scared. Maybe of her or what she was gonna do, if she was gonna like say something bad about me. And I went to go on my lunch and I called my boyfriend, and my boyfriend got extremely mad, and he called the corporate offices. And the corporate offices told us, no, 14 days is good. And because I was just too anxious to call them myself, he said, okay, well, my girlfriend did give her full 2 weeks, and her boss is saying that she has to work the weekend, which adds up to 16 days. And they basically gave us the runaround because they didn't want to admit that their associates had done something wrong. And I really shouldn't have. I just did it because I was worried about the backlash I would have gotten from my boss had I left at the 14 days, which I was supposed to. So I did stay for the full 16 days. And I'm not mad at myself for that because that's what I thought was right in that time. But I just wish that my old self would have had enough self-respect to stand up to that boss, and just enough knowledge to know that I stand on firm ground in saying that I'm leaving in 14 days and that's all you get. And that's already more than enough. But retaliation. So that's another reason why you should leave your job, is if you are at all worried your boss is going to retaliate against you in any way, not just for quitting, but for maybe not taking a shift or something small, there are multiple resources that you can call if you feel scared to quit. But ultimately, you need to sit down and have a long, serious talk with yourself and say, is this job hurting my mental health? Is this job hurting like me, like just me living? Like, if I have anxiety and depression every day going to this job, is it really worth it? And the answer is no. It's always no. And then the last point is kind of the big the big one for why you should leave your job. And I know this isn't everything. This isn't all the reasons why you should leave your job. But the last one is a really big one. So saddle up. You should leave your job if you are involved in sexual harassment, if you were a person that the sexual harassment happened against, if you witnessed sexual harassment happening, you need to get out of there, and you need to protect yourself first and foremost. I have worked at 2 different jobs where this has happened. One of my jobs, it happened twice to me. My bosses did nothing. They had a talk with the gentleman who did the sexual harassment. Didn't do shit because it happened for a second time. And this gentleman also had been known to be drinking on the job by us other employees. All of us knew that he would drink on the job because we were located right next to a brewery, or he would just come in high or drunk and or both. So he was a whole bucket of problems. And you know, I still stayed in contact with certain people that I had worked with from there. And he didn't get fired until one of the managers, and this was probably 5 months after I had left, one of the managers caught him drinking at the bar next to us. So me getting sexually harassed twice wasn't enough for them. They had to see him being intoxicated while at work. That's bullshit. If your employer doesn't take your safety seriously, get the fuck out of there. And I'm not sorry for cussing, because this is some serious shit. Why do you think the Me Too movement is so big? That's why we have to speak up. Not just for women. This happens to men too. Like, I am so fucking fed up with us women just putting up with this bullshit. Like, being sexually harassed, even being, like, talked down to. That was another reason why I left a job, because my boss was making microaggressions against me because I'm half Latina, and he would make fun of me for speaking Spanish. And it's like, dude, I am speaking a language you don't know so I can help our customers. Why the fuck is that something to make fun of? Oh, because I am a woman and I am partially a minority. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit. So, all of this goes to say, and I'm going to take it back down, all of this goes to say, you deserve respect. You deserve to be paid what you are worth, which is a lot, baby girl. You deserve a living wage. Unless you work part-time and you do school or something like that, and you got somebody else supporting you or some other kind of support system, you deserve to be paid a living wage. Everybody deserves to be paid a living wage. I don't care. That's what it is. And you deserve to feel safe at your job. Your job should not be a source of anxiety or worry or am I going to get sexually harassed today? And, you know, I can't speak for other people, but I was worried about somebody retaliating against me recently. An old boss of mine threatened suicide twice if I left my job. And as somebody who has had suicidal thoughts and has been depressed for so long, I take that shit really seriously. But he also proved himself to be a very manipulative, greedy person. So when I went in there to quit, I had already gone in at 6 a.m. that morning, grabbed all my shit, went home, got everything together, got my payroll together so I knew exactly what he should be paying me for my last paycheck, took my key for the store off my keychain, had it ready to go with my payroll. And I said, I'm quitting. He did everything to try to get me to stay. And this was one of the persons whom I had decided to quit immediately because I witnessed sexual harassment. And even though it didn't happen against me, it happened. And that's already too much. So no matter what he said, no matter what he did, there would be nothing for him to make me stay. He offered me more money. He offered me a promotion, which he couldn't even give because there was nowhere for me to move up to because I was already the floor manager. He also yelled at me every week. And he purposely did things to make me feel small. So, this all goes to say, is leaving your job, quitting your job, and it's your decision whether you can put up with it for 2 more weeks or if you just need to quit on the spot, whatever. It's your decision. For me, I stayed an extra day to finish out the week, and then I had a vacation, and then on one of my vacation days, I came in and quit. And that was the right decision for me. But what I would say, what I would advise is if you're in a situation where you feel unsafe or in danger in any way, you need to quit immediately. But if it's a situation where you're not feeling fulfilled or like you just want to explore new opportunities, which you're entitled to that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with changing jobs because you're not feeling fulfilled by what you're doing for work. If it's one of those circumstances, I would say stick it out and do the 2 weeks, if you feel good about it, because ultimately it's going to be better for your resume. And my last point that I want to hit on is where to seek support. So maybe when you're trying to decide if quitting is right for you, you need to maybe seek out your family or friends or even coworkers who might be feeling the same way, and really kind of talk through this situation with them and make sure that there's somebody that truly cares about your best interest and will not have bias. And then after you quit, just stick around people who really want to support you, who really want to show you that love that you're deserved and just remind you that you made the right decision because you did. And who want to tell you, you know what? The next job you get is going to be awesome because although that really crappy situation happened, you know what to look out for. You know the red flags now. You are smarter because of it. You learned something from that situation. And ultimately, you need to have the self-respect to quit your job if you feel unsafe or taken advantage of, or just you don't feel thanked. If your boss doesn't say thank you, if your boss doesn't show appreciation when you go above and beyond, that's a good reason to leave too. So you guys, thank you for watching this video. I think it was probably my longest one yet. I really appreciate it. And if you like this, please smash that subscribe button. And please follow me on Instagram at canICryNow18. And I hope you guys all have a great week. Thanks. Bye.